Hi, I'm Libby Gibson, Town Manager. Welcome to What's Going On in Town Government. So Gino, it is Thursday and it is, I'm beat. It was a long meeting.
It was.
And then me and you went to the Stop and Shop after.
Right.
Not together, we met there.
Yep.
We encountered
Nice
each
and
other.
quiet for you.
It was nice and quiet.
Nobody coming up and heckling you.
No, I didn't
Right?
get any heckling, only a little bit from you, that's it.
Right.
But
That
then,
was a workshop last night.
that was a workshop last night. So it's the so-called all talk, no action meeting, as we fondly call it. And we had an initial discussion about, well, not initial, a continuing discussion about ways to get bikes in and out of town. There is a bike route kind of established already, not kind of, established already to get in and out of town, and it's marked and there's signage and stuff, but there seems to be a desire to have additional ways. So we talked about that, and
I've got some things that we could bring up on that.
Okay.
Because I was there filming it. And,
Yes.
And it was an interesting,
it was an interesting
back and
discussion.
forth.
Yep.
Tobias seems to want to really beef up accessibility in town.
Yes.
It seems that way, right?
Yes.
So he wants to move things around and
Well-
maybe build some bike paths in town.
I think he's talking about things like, to make it easier for bikes to get in and out, removing some parking on certain streets, and possibly expanding certain areas for bike lanes. And I think Matt was kind of on board with some of that as well. I don't think all the board are on board with the removal of too many, if any, parking spots.
Yeah.
So, and that's tricky, parking is not.
And then Linda had a bit of a problem with any kind of signs that on the street,
She
like
had-
little
yeah.
stencils and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think very many people have a problem with that. We're just talking the stencils on the street that are exactly like what's by the Stop and Shop. And we've had them
And they're
before.
worried. They were worried about safety in town,
Yes.
right? That was an issue.
That's
taking
an
away
issue.
Cars.
Yeah, I mean, that's always an issue, really, isn't it? No matter what. Everybody's always concerned about safety. You got to be careful.
That's it. It seems
Cars
to me, yeah.
and pedestrians and bikers.
Especially
be
in town.
careful. Matt was, he was talking about bike path crossings and things where both the bikers and the cars don't pay attention to each other, basically is what that is. And you're a bike rider, I'm a bike rider. I don't stop at every crossing, do you?
No.
I am very aware to look and listen to see if anything's coming, and if it is, stop or zoom through quick before they get there.
Yeah.
That's just human nature. That's what people do. So be careful is what you need to do.
I think so.
Some of these serious bikers are into their biking program, and they don't. I've seen that they don't pay a lot of attention to. I shouldn't say that. That some of them, not all of them. I think most of them are probably pretty aware, but sometimes you might just get into your zone or whatever, and you're just going.
Mike did a presentation, and I was surprised. We had almost 40 miles of
It was a
bike
good
path.
presentation. Yes, a lot of. We probably have more bike paths than any town
Well,
on the
we do.
Cape
We have
all
the
together in
most.
one spot.
Yeah, 40 miles. That's really impressive.
So there wasn't any action taken on this, but there were three things, if I recall correctly, that Tobias wanted the board to vote on at a future meeting. So that hasn't been scheduled yet. I'll talk to the chair and vice chair about when to do that. So that's yet to come. We also had an update from our right-of-way committee, and Alan Reinhardt is the chairman. He gave a nice presentation about all the different projects and things that they've been working on, which are extensive. The board asked that his committee think about taking on, or they really kind of want them to take on, sort of an inventory of Chapter 91 licenses. Chapter 91 licenses are licenses that generally private groups get when they are doing waterfront business or buildings and things. So, for example, Old North Wharf has a Chapter 91 license. The Nantucket Yacht Club has it. All the waterfront groups have it. The Boat Basin has one. And I think there's a little bit of concern that from time to time, if people aren't really paying attention and aren't completely aware of what the conditions are to the Chapter 91 license, because it's a license issued by the state, by the Department of Environmental Protection, and it generally requires conditions for public access to the water. So sometimes things happen and gates go up and sort of obstacles go up to inhibit or even restrict outright access to the water. So there's been a little bit of growing concern about this by the board, and they'd like the right-of-way committee to maybe try to get a hold of all the licenses and create an inventory. This is going to take a while, but create an inventory of what all the major conditions are for each one so that we can be more attentive to compliance. We also talked about sewer project costs. There's 2 sewer projects that are planned to be put forward at this coming town meeting, and they are not cheap projects. They are I forget exactly how much each one was because the numbers have changed a bit, but in total they're around $120 or so million dollars. $120 million for these 2 projects. They're extensive projects, and they are believed to be necessary projects for harbor and other water quality. And at some point, if we don't maintain our nutrient loads within a certain parameter, we are going to be required to do some of these things by the Department of Environmental Protection. In any case, the finance director was reviewing some updated costs because the costs that we had been talking about several months ago hadn't been updated from when they were initially presented in the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan update. So we know that municipal projects as of late have been coming in when put out to bid much higher or somewhat higher than the appropriation because costs are just they're up there right now for municipal projects, buildings, sewers, roads, all of it. So we were talking about that, and we also talked a bit about our public outreach for these projects, which I had a meeting with a number of people yesterday about, and we're going to begin to sort of start getting public education out there about why we need these projects, how much they're going to cost, who's going to pay for it, all of that kind of thing.
And there was a lot of discussion about who would pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it.
What's the general consensus on how this will get paid for? Right.
Well, right at the moment, the board's intent is that if passed by town meeting and by ballot, there would be 60% of the cost would be paid through betterments. That is, the people who are bettered by the sewer. Basically, if the sewer goes by your property, you will have to connect and you will have to pay for it. 40%.
You would pay 60% of that?
You'll pay 60% of that. Over a period of time, not all at once. And the taxpayers would pay the rest. I think everybody probably agrees that we all need to pay something. Everybody, regardless of whether you're on sewer, getting sewer, or on septic. Because it's a benefit to the entire island, and it's a benefit to those the sewer goes by their property. When you connect, it enhances your property value. There's no question.
Oh yeah, of course. So
there's a lot to consider with this, but if this was a smaller number, it probably wouldn't be obviously as contentious. But these are big numbers that we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, a septic system, I was surprised to hear that, like some people, especially in Mattocket, may have put a new septic system in.
Yes.
Within the last 5 years.
Yes.
And they may have paid $15,000
or more.
Or more.
Maybe substantially more. Depends on what kind of septic system you have. The person at the meeting last night seemed to indicate that a kind of a normal, regular septic system was between, what did he say, 15 and 25,000, something like that.
That's a lot.
But an IA system, an innovative alternative system, is substantially more than that. I don't think we didn't go down that road, but.
Well, I mean, they had done that, and now they've got to shell out another, what, $8? Is it going to be, for some people, $8,000?
It's going to be substantially more than $8,000.
Per person?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's based on property value.
Oh, I see. Okay. That's how it's based on.
It could be upwards of $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 per property.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
This is why, and more. I mean.
This is, yeah, okay.
And less. I mean, there's range.
Sure. It's based on your property value.
It's based on your property value, and it will enhance your property value.
And we're doing this all for water quality.
Yep.
So we got to do that everywhere though, don't we? Don't
Oh,
we have to worry about water quality everywhere?
Yes, the Cape is going through this very similar process, and they're not as far along as we are. Fertilizer, septic systems, runoff, a lot of different things. Yeah, for sure.
Down the road, this is good.
Down the road, it's very good. We don't want to end up polluting our own
We're
water.
going in the right direction by keeping the water clean, definitely.
Yeah, but
Even
it
though costs so
does
much
come at a
right now.
cost,
Wow,
unfortunately.
that's a lot of money.
So then we got into, excuse me, a discussion about the warrant for 2016 and the warrant articles. The board is scheduled to adopt the warrant next week, so we're trying to get it finalized. And there are a couple of articles, I think, that they were, I don't know if they're 100% there yet. The Community Housing Bank was one. They had a lot of discussion about that. And that was a proposal that it's kind of been floating out there a bit, but nobody really seemed to get very serious about it until about a week ago. And it's a complicated home rule petition. It's special legislation that would add an additional real estate transfer tax, very similar to the land bank tax. There would be a little bit more added. Unclear yet whether it would be upon the buyer or the seller. There was some discussion about that. That's kind of up in the air, I think. And the revenue that's generated from that would go to a community housing bank, and it would be overseen by a separately elected commission, which would, it seems like, decide how to distribute the funds for affordable and other housing initiatives. So I mean, I'm not sure we're going to be able to pull this thing together in a comprehensive way in a week. It seems to me like it needs a lot more discussion. Do you know, that's the story of my life. Everything is right to the end.
It's not your fault, right?
I don't think so. Obviously, I don't think so. I don't like to do that last night. But it was, you know what? Stuff happens.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of municipal government. Stuff happens. It's not just here. It's everywhere. So that's what we did. Next week.
Oh, we forgot one thing. The price of, you discussed charging people for renting out their house to Airbnb or VRBO.
Okay, that was
I thought we would talk about that a little bit.
Okay, that was a kind of a proposed article. There had been some discussion about.
That was interesting, though.
Yeah, I haven't wrapped my head around the whole thing entirely, but there's some concern by the lodging association, I think, that these Airbnb places are not licensed and it's kind of a free for all.
They don't pay.
They don't really pay anything.
Per person or per day,
right.
The way the lodging people
They don't.
Right?
That's right, and they're not licensed.
Who determines how much they pay? Is it the town?
No, it's a state law.
It's a state
the room
law.
occupancy tax, and it's based on the number of rooms and how they're rented and things like that. So that's a reasonable concern that people with renting out rooms or whatever are not paying any of that.
Right.
So this was an attempt to sort of rein that in a little bit, but it kind of turned out to look more like just another license, and it started to get into a kind of a complicated area. So we probably haven't entirely thought through the ins and outs of it. So the enforcement, that was the big thing with Bob.
Yeah,
he didn't. And he's right to bring that up. So they're going to take it out. We're not going to proceed with that for 2016. We're going to think about it more and try to figure out. We probably ought to have. Not probably. We ought to have thought through more administratively what the ins and outs exactly are. How would it exactly work? But as usual, there's too many things on people's plates and stuff falls off, and so you never get to doing that.
Would it be fair? Matt brought up an interesting point. We'll take out we've lost so many rooms anyway in the past 10 years for guest houses and hotels.
Yep.
Why not just not charge people that room occupancy for those places? That way it's all fair.
Which
Instead
places?
of getting the money out of the room occupancy tax that guest houses are expected to pay, take that tax off.
Well, it's already a state tax, so we can't take it off.
We can't.
There's a local portion which brings in well over $1 million a year, probably closer to 2 or 3 million, maybe more. So we wouldn't have that revenue anymore. So then what are we going to do?
Well, but then it's fair for everybody, unless you want to charge everybody.
Well, that's the other side of the discussion. The seasonal rentals. Forget about Airbnb for a minute. The people who rent, their houses for a month or whatever.
Exactly.
And there's been a lot of discussion in the region about expanding the room occupancy tax to seasonal vacation rentals. And there are a couple of towns on the Cape that have continually submitted home rule petitions because that's what it requires right now. And none of it passes town meeting. I was communicating with somebody from Brewster yesterday about this, and she said they've passed it probably 8 times at town meeting without any discussion, but it doesn't pass the legislature.
Wow.
It really requires a group effort. You know, all the towns have to be on board. There needs to be a kind of a lobbying effort, and it's just people, you know, it's hard.
Yep.
It's really hard. So at next week's meeting, we're back to a regular meeting. We've got a couple of consent things. We have, it's public hearing Wednesday. Looks like we have a couple of telephone petitions.
For those people who are watching, what does public hearing mean?
Public hearings mean that we, depending on what people want to do or are asking to do, a public hearing is required. So several years ago, this actually was initiated by Mike Glowacki when he was on the board, and he really helped kind of organize, instead of the agendas being willy-nilly, whatever, you know, anything goes on at any week. He was really instrumental in developing more of a process where the Wednesdays are for certain things. So we have the workshop Wednesday. We have sort of citizen, departmental, town business Wednesday. We have county and NRTA Wednesday, and we have a public hearing Wednesday. There's other things that end up on the agenda as well, but the primary purpose is supposed to be public hearings. So they're all on one night.
What is a public hearing?
It is a hearing which is advertised, and the public has a chance to come and comment on whatever it is that's being proposed or dealt with. So we've got this telephone petition, these couple of telephone petitions. The town manager's report has a few things on it. We are reviewing some enterprise fund budgets for the next fiscal year. Our Island Home, Sewer and Solid Waste, we're reviewing those with the board. We're also going to be reviewing a sort of a, not an overhaul exactly, but a bit of an overhaul about business licenses. We've been talking about this for several months now. We've come up administratively with a proposal for the board which involves some fee increases and ways in which to deal with, we get business licenses. We get a lot of requests annually for people who want to do things around town, mostly in the summer, mostly at beaches. They want to rent beach chairs. They want to rent picnic lunches at the beach. They want to sell hot dogs at the beach. They want to have a cart, or they want to have a mobile food unit. And it's gotten lately to be way more than it used to be. A lot of requests are coming in. They want to do kiteboarding. They want to do fly boarding, things like that. So we've been trying to come up with a process through which these things are vetted and or even allowed. There's been some growing concern about what's allowed at various public properties. So we're coming up with a proposal that would, for mostly beach areas, what is and is not allowed at the beach areas. So, for example, part of our proposal would be that 2 mobile food units are allowed at, I forget exactly what the beaches are, but Matticat,
Surfside?
not
Or no?
Surfside because it has a concession.
Dionis?
Dionis and a couple others. Maybe my comment was one, I forget. And you will have to bid on this. There's a base fee that covers all of the town's administrative charges and licenses, and then you're going to bid, and we'll take the higher bid. And their bid will have the bid requirement. There will be bid requirements. You will obviously have to have insurance. You will have to clean up after your business. Make sure all your trash is cleaned up. Preferably take your trash away and don't stuff it into the public trash can that's there, because that gets overflowing easily. Anyway, so we're going to be presenting this at our meeting next week. We're also going to get a presentation from the fire chief about advanced life support ambulance service. Right now we have basic life support ambulance service. We've been talking about ALS, advanced life support, for a number of years now. In addition to, there's kind of 2 things we're looking at: additional staffing at the fire department, and the chief will have a review of response times. And we're on the lower end of what's standard for response times, and he'd like to bring that up. We all would. And he's going to review what it's going to take to go to ALS. This is a paramedic service. We don't have paramedics right now, and that's going to require bargaining with the union. It will require, it will end up being more pay. There's more training. There's more equipment. On the other side of it, there are higher ambulance rates, which are generally almost always covered by insurance. So we're going to be going over that. It's part of our budget proposal for fiscal 17, so these are the details of it. The board several
Will
months...
they make a decision?
We're not necessarily asking them to make a decision, perhaps an endorsement, but I think we want them to get on board with it. I mean, they didn't object to it when we were reviewing it, but we want them to understand all of the details of it.
And the cost.
And the cost, yeah, which is huge.
Oh, it is?
I mean,
Okay.
huge in the sense that it's a big
important.
cost, but it's important. Several months ago, the board talked about paid parking at the 2 fairgrounds lot. And we've come up with some regulations that would do that. What else are we doing? Hopefully the board is adopting the warrant for the town meeting and the election. We have, I'm sorry to say, 3 more HDC appeals. Not 3 more. 2 are continued from prior times, 13 C Street in Matticat and 6 Marble Way. And then we have a new one at 250 Pulpus Road.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So that is what's going on with Board of Selectmen's meetings.
Great.
Great.
Every week is
winter.
a new adventure.
Every week is a new adventure.
Isn't
It is.
And that's the way to look at it, isn't it, here at the town?
Well, how else can you look at it? It's a new, exciting adventure. Every, it's a lot of work, too.
I
putting
think we
the
got some
agendas
weather
together.
coming in, Libby.
Me too. I don't totally mind this little bit of snow here.
This is like, where was this at Christmas time, right?
Yeah, where was this at
This
Christmas
is
time?
pretty.
It is. It's nice. I don't think it's going to last long, though. It's supposed to be 40 degrees tomorrow.
But it's windy. Aren't we getting a possible nor'easter?
Saturday? Yeah, maybe.
Saturday?
Maybe.
And then another one after that, I heard.
Oh,
Possibly.
boy. Well, it is winter and all. Gino,
Yeah.
let's talk about the elephant in the room. We didn't win Powerball. You did.
Well, I got the
Sort of.
Powerball.
You got the
number.
Powerball. So you've got
That's 2 in a row for me, though.
2 in a row?
Yeah, the last one I got the Powerball number 2.
Wow.
So I'm getting a little bit back
I
from this.
may consult you next time if there's another
All right.
big opportunity.
Just keep, you know,
You won $4.
yeah.
It's better than the kick in the face.
I'll
I
take
don't
it.
think I won anything, and I was involved in the purchase of several tickets.
Yeah. it happened.
However, the odds were not in our favor.
Nope. Okay.
All right, what else? I guess that's it. So thanks very much. See you next time.